吵闹的主日学氛围。他是 Bill Wilson 牧师，大都会国际儿童事工创办人。总是无畏环境险恶，以孩童安危为优先。这份异于常人的勇敢，其实源自于他童年遭到母亲遗弃，在街头孤立无援的境况。当时信有基督徒的爱与关怀，才得以存活。过去的经历使他跟孩子零距离，至今保持初衷，接送孩子们上下儿童主日学。因为每接一位孩子，就如同帮助当年的自己。
朋友们，你好，欢迎来到今天的真情部落格。今天呢，我们的来宾是从美国纽约而来。那么其实呢，他是一位牧师哦，但是在全世界建立起一个蛮庞大的一个儿童主日学的一个体系。他的主日学跟一般的主日学很不一样，他的主日学特别是针对了从小就生长在相当贫困，可能是贫民窟，可能是充满犯罪暴力的一个地方的一些孩子们，来为他们来做主日学。他的事工充满了各式各样的神迹奇事，包含他的生命也是。今天来到节目当中来跟大家做一点分享，欢迎 Pastor Bill Wilson, welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for letting me be here.
It's our honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know that you come to Taiwan like every year.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, just about this time of year is a great time for us. We've made a lot of friends here. We have a lot of great supporters, great churches in Taiwan. So I come, I speak at these churches every year
and share your story.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I just introduced about your ministry for children. That is very well known around the world. So my first question is, why make you so, so interested about children?
Yeah. So oftentimes when people have problems in their lives, they use it as an excuse. They become a victim. They want people to feel sorry for them. But to answer your question, we have to go back to my childhood. My mother, who was an alcoholic, and I were walking down the street one day there in America, and I knew something was wrong. We sat on the street corner. She looked at me, and she said, Bill, she said, I can't do this anymore. You wait here.
How old were you?
I was 12 years old.
Okay.
And I watched my mother walk down the street. She never came back. Yeah. I sat there for 3 days. No food, no water. Hundreds of people drove by. Hundreds of people walked by. Now remember, this was 1960. And you would have thought that someone would have stopped. But no one stopped until 3 days later when a very ordinary Christian man, operative word here. Don't miss this, folks. Listen to me very carefully. One ordinary Christian.
Ordinary Christian.
Ordinary. Key word. His own son was in the hospital dying of leukemia.
Wow.
But he still stopped. He pulls his car over, gets out of his car, walks across the street to where I'd been sitting, puts his hand on my shoulder and just says, are you okay? That's it. There was no bright lights, no cameras, just a little boy that nobody wanted, and the ordinary Christian. And I used to stutter really bad when I was little. I could never speak right. And I tried to tell him my mother was gone and I was just hungry. And immediately, he gets his wife. She comes back. They bring me food and water. He gets on the phone. And 5 hours, folks, after this meeting, a chance meeting? Yeah, I don't think so. This meeting on a street corner. He's loading me in a church van, sends me to a Sunday school camp. I've never been to church in my life, have no point of understanding of anything church, religion, Jesus, anything.
You have no idea about that?
Nothing. No point of reference. But I'm sitting in this Sunday school camp, and I had holes in the knees of my pants. I had a hole in my T-shirt. I was wearing the only clothes I had. They were the same clothes that he picked me up off the street in. It's all I had. And I remembered sitting in that service for the kids in camp with my hands like this. I was so embarrassed. But when I heard the man say, if you want Jesus, come to the front, I got out of my seat. I didn't understand it all.
Do you know anything about Jesus?
No, never heard it. Never heard the story. And he said, if you want Jesus, come to the front. Didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand exactly what he was saying, but I knew I needed something. Got out of my seat. I came to the front. Many kids came to the altar, and they all had a counselor talking with them, praying with them. I was the only kid that didn't have anybody praying with them because I stuttered, I was dirty, I had holes in my clothes. I didn't look like the church kids because I wasn't a church kid.
So no one prayed for you?
Nobody prayed for me. But I'm sitting there, and I was watching the other kids, and they were talking to Jesus. I didn't understand it. But I tried to pray. I've never prayed, didn't know how, but I tried. I even remember what I said. I said, Jesus, my mother doesn't want me, and now the church people don't want me. I said, but if you want me, here I am. And in my own way, I gave my life to Christ, and he took me just the way I was.
So after the summer camp, right? Summer camp.
Yes.
So you go back to David's house, or?
Well, this is the part of the story I never get to tell. So thanks for asking me, because my mother never came back. So now I'm back and nowhere to live. So Dave, the man who picked me up, talked to his pastor.
Okay.
Said, look, we've got this kid here. He's got nowhere to live, and I have no room for him. And again, 1960, different time in American history. So the pastor cleaned out this maintenance closet, little 3-foot by 4-foot space. They found a piece of foam rubber. That was my mattress. So that closet became my house.
Wow.
I lived in the church for almost 3 years.
3 years?
3 years, yeah. Yeah. And every night, a different family from the church would bring me their leftovers. They would knock on the closet door. I would come out. And I remember I would sit on the floor and I would eat my one meal a day. And that's how I lived.
Did you go to school?
Oh, yeah, walked to school. School was 5-6 blocks away. Walked to school, came back home, did my homework, went to sleep. I lived at the church.
All by yourself?
All by myself. Yeah.
At the age of 12?
At the age of 12. But Lulu...
Were you feel lonely or scared?
You know, not really. Not really. I always read books. I was always been a reader. To this day, I read a book a week. It's just something I picked up from being a kid.
Grow up through the way you've been through. Did you have any dream?
Every day walking home from school, I would pray. I would say, Lord, whoever is supposed to bring me my one meal a day, my food tonight, please don't let them forget. And I prayed that they would remember me. Lived in that closet, like I said, for almost 3 years.
Yes.
Living at the church. One day, my Sunday school teacher said, we're going out tonight and we're going to hand out gospel flyers and invite people. He said, do you want to come? I was scared to death.
Scared to death?
I was. I'd never, at this point, I was, 14? Yeah, probably 14. Never, just stayed in church, minded my own business, did my homework, lived at church. I was good. But then he said, why don't you come along? And I remembered he showed me to hand out, go up to people and just hand it to them. I was pretty scared. But then that was in the days when there used to be telephone booths. For your audience that doesn't know what a telephone booth is. Okay. But I was holding the papers and I saw people making phone calls and I thought, I'm going to put some of these in the phone booth. So I ran over and I put some in there. Then I ran back across the street and then I just watched.
You're so nervous.
I was scared. I'd never done this before. And so I saw one lady go in. She made a phone call, hung up, and saw these gospel tracts, flyers. She picked one up. She looked at it. And then I remember she folded it up. Put it in her purse. I was so excited. I thought, this is it. This is it. It was almost like me doing for someone else that Dave did for me. I thought, yeah, she's going to read it. Maybe she'll accept Jesus. That was my first inkling that maybe I could do something. But then when the pastor said, can you drive the van? Can you collect the kids and bring them on Sunday? I said, yes, I can do that. I can do that. But it starts again with the little things.
And have you ever met your mother again?
It was, 27 years ago. 27 years ago. I hired a private agency to track her down, just to try to see. I didn't know if she was dead or alive. They found her, but she'd been an alcoholic for so long. Her brain was just pickled because of the alcohol.
She was alone too?
Yes, yeah. And I came up to her, I said, I'm your son. And she mumbled, she said, I don't have a son. I said, yes. And I had one picture of me when I was little. It's all I ever found. And I showed her the picture, and you could tell her face was just, she was glazed over. I said, I'm your son. She said, I don't have a son. And I tried to tell her some of the stories, thinking maybe it would bring it back to her memory, but it didn't. And I said, can I pray for you? She said, no. And then I saw her turn around and walk away for the second time.
How did you feel?
It's hard to answer that question because it's the mixed emotions.
Yes.
It was one thing to see her walk away the first time when I was 12.
Yes.
And now, as an older man, and I saw her reject me again, I don't know which was worse, to be honest with you. But I knew that I had to try. I knew that I had to somehow connect with her and share what Jesus had done for me. That was something I had to do for myself as much as I tried to do it for her.
But do you hate her?
No.
No.
No. No. No. I understand her. I understood. I didn't then. I do now. I think she was overwhelmed at that time. Didn't feel like she could take care of me because she really couldn't even take care of herself.
Yes, yes.
And it was 6 months after I found her and talked with her that they found her dead in the street. So that chapter of my life is closed. Didn't end the way I would have liked, but I gave it my best. I shared the gospel with her. You just have to believe that somewhere before she died, that she made that decision to give her life to Christ.
And how about the critical Christian in your life, Dave? How old is he now?
Dave?
Dave.
He's 88 years old.
Wow, 88 years old.
88, yeah. I've learned from Dave's life, it's not so much of what you accomplish in life as what you put into motion. He put something into motion that day. He didn't know. He didn't know exactly what he was doing. He didn't know what I would grow up to become. But it was several years ago when he was able to still get around. I flew him to New York City. We stood together on the street corner by the church. And all the buses bringing in thousands of kids. And I just leaned over. I said, take a good look, my friend. Take a good look. Because this is your legacy. This is what you've done. You thought in 1960 you were just picking up a little poor boy. But now, this.
What did he say to you?
He just cried.
He just cried.
He just cried. And we both knelt down on that sidewalk together, and we prayed. That's one of the greatest memories of his life, and I think of my life. When I went like this, the gun went like this.
Oh.
And he squeezed it again. That time it went off, and it blew out the whole side of my face. I remember the sound, the explosion in my mouth.
Bill Wilson 牧师从纽约治安最混乱的布鲁克林区开始儿童事工。他相信建造孩子生命比恢复成人生命来得容易，而陆续也有许多志工加入在其中。每个星期六，他们无怨无悔地付出在这些儿童身上。
Pastor Bill 因为自己童年曾经经历过的种种辛苦的生活，所以他对于这种在辛苦状况的孩子特别有感。那他刚开始他的事工呢，是在纽约，而且是在一个治安非常不好的区域，叫做 Bushwick, right? So when did you start to notice?
I was visiting, doing ministry in New York City in 1977. And at that time, when I was there was something called a blackout, where the electricity went out for almost 3 days. Mm-hmm. I saw things in those few days when the lights had gone out that I would have never imagined seeing in America. But I never forgot it. I said, if the gospel is true, and I'm going to give my life to this, then I wonder if the gospel is true in the ghetto, in the hard parts of America, in the hard parts of the world. If I'm going to give my life to something. And in 1980, I moved by myself to Brooklyn, New York, the Bushwick, Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Found an apartment, moved in. I had no idea what I was in for. It wasn't like any other part of the United States. Drugs, the gang violence, kids, little kids, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, standing on a street corner, and when they would see the police, they would just whistle to alert the drug dealers that the police were coming. And the drug dealers would give them $100 cash. Mm-hmm. Little kids earning $100 a day just for whistling when they saw the police. Little girls, 15, 16 years old, standing on a street corner, almost naked, selling their bodies in prostitution.
So how did you start your ministry in New York by yourself? How did you start?
Well, like I said, I knew I was going to start on Saturday because my mother was a barmaid. She worked in a bar there in the town in Florida. And I remembered every Saturday. I hated Saturday.
You hate Saturday.
Because she would take me with her to work in the bar, and I had to clean the toilets in the bar. That was my job. I was 10 years old. Mm. And that's why when I went to New York City to start Metro World Child Sunday School, I started the Sunday school on Saturday. So I rented a little church there in that one of the toughest neighborhoods in America. I went to the pastor. I said, "Are you using your building on Saturday?" He said, "No." I said, "Can I rent it for several hours on Saturday to work with the children?" He said, "Yes." I thought, great, I've got a building. But I thought, I need buses, because that's what I did all through my ministry. I'd pick kids up, bring them to church. So I found a place that rented buses. So we made a deal. I thought, okay, I've got the church, now I've got the buses, but how am I going to get the kids? Here's the challenge. So I had this Yogi Bear costume.
Like teddy bear?
Like a big teddy bear.
Okay.
Yeah, best way we can explain it. So I had a big old teddy bear. So I made friends with a couple of drug addicts. One of the drug addicts, I got him into the teddy bear costume. And then I got a truck, an open bed truck. So I put this drug addict in the bear costume in the back of the truck. And then I got the drug dealer to drive the truck.
Wow, drug dealer drive the car.
Oh, yeah. So
Wow.
then I was in the back of the truck, and every day for a week, I had this megaphone, bullhorn, or I could yell at everybody. And every day we'd go to a different school, and we would have the truck pull up, and here's the teddy bear, here's Yogi Bear waving to the kids. The kids have never seen anything like this. And the drug dealer, he's looking for the police. and I'm in the back with the megaphone, kid, and I had flyers, papers, come over, see Yogi Bear, see the teddy bear. And the kids would gather around the truck, and I'd give them all papers, and I said, be outside Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and a big bus is gonna come by and pick you up. We're gonna take you to Sunday school. They didn't know what I was saying, but they were so excited. And so we did that every day for a week. And then Saturday came around.
The first Saturday.
First Saturday, we had 1,010 kids.
First Saturday?
The first Saturday that showed up. It was the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life, because these kids were just excited. They wanted to see the teddy bear.
How did you feel like for the first Saturday you have 1,000 kids?
Yeah. I wasn't sure how I felt because it was almost overwhelming. I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we'd have, maybe 100, maybe. And then all of a sudden, we had 1,000 kids.
Wow.
And a lot of them couldn't even come in because the building wasn't big enough. So the second week, we had to go to 2 services. And the third week, we had to go to 3 services. And that was the beginning.
So thousands of kids. You need a very big
It just
church,
kept going and going and going. And then we got kicked out of that church because there was too many kids.
Yes.
And the people got nervous. We actually had to shut the ministry down for a year.
Wow.
There was no place else to go. And the people that were helping me, they left. People that were helping us support the ministry stopped. But I stayed because I believed in the vision. I believed in reaching a generation. And after a year, we found another building. Wasn't ideal. They were selling stolen car parts out of it. But I talked to the man. We were able to get it.
Yeah, and I heard about the story about the volunteer. She's a woman that she joined your team. She joined your bus, but she even can speak English, right?
Yeah. It was an amazing thing. She came from Puerto Rico, Spanish lady, but could speak no English. She said, Pastor Bill, I have to serve the Lord. He saved me. He's brought me out of a horrible life. I have to serve him. She said, how can I serve in the ministry? And honestly, I didn't know what to say. She couldn't speak English. How was she going to communicate? I said, we have 50 buses. We pick up the kids to teach them about Jesus. Get on a different bus every week and love the kids. It's all I could think of. I didn't know what else she could do. I didn't really think she'd do it, but she did. Went on for several months. Then she came again with the interpreter. Said, Pastor Bill, I don't want to change buses. I want to stay on that bus. I thought, okay. I didn't ask why. I said, that's fine. Well, I talked to the bus driver.
Yes.
And I said, what's the deal with that lady? He said, I don't know. But she found this little boy on the bus. Something happened. She connected with this one little boy, little 6-year-old boy. But he would always sit like this. He never talked. So this went on for a couple of more months. He wouldn't speak, and she would just whisper all the way to Sunday school, all the way home. I love you. Jesus loves you. He would just sit. And it was 2 weeks before Christmas. Normal Saturday. We just finished Sunday school, got the kids back on the bus. The bus pulled up in front of the drug house where the little boy lived. And Our Lady, one last time, I love you. Jesus loves you. And usually he would just get off the bus, go in and come in the back of that house. But today was different. He got off her lap and he turned his back to the rest of the kids so they couldn't hear him. He took his hands like this, put them on this lady's face. He drew her face close to him. And he tried to say, la, you, too. He was trying to tell her, I love you too. That's why he never spoke. Nobody knew it. He couldn't speak. We didn't know it until that day. He tried to tell her, I love you too. And he just gave her a big hug. That was 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon. At 6:30 that night, they found that little boy dead in a garbage bag, thrown away behind that drug house.
4 hours later.
Yeah. That afternoon, that little boy's mother beat him to death, threw him in a garbage bag, and threw him away. But one of the last things that little boy heard before he died from a lady couldn't even speak the language. I love you. Jesus loves you. And there's a little boy in heaven today, and nobody will ever convince me otherwise. Because one ordinary little Christian lady who couldn't speak the language, was not highly educated, never heard an audible voice sending her into the ministry, but she loved that little boy. And he knew it. He knew it. He knew it. And that, Lulu, is the very reason why Metro World Child Sunday School exists. Because of kids like that.
So have you ever think about quit?
I have.
Give up?
I have. One of our Sunday school teachers had been gang raped on top of one of the buildings there in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Ripped to pieces, left for dead on the roof of a building. It was not long after that we had closed down a drug house across the street from the church. One of the drug dealers came at me with an axe, was going to kill me. He couldn't kill me, so we killed one of our staff members instead. We found the staff member dead behind the church on a Sunday morning. Then, after that, I got hit with a brick, right? It was a robbery there in Brooklyn. Somebody came up behind me, hit me with a brick, broke my cheekbone, broke out these teeth, and I was blind in this eye. Blood clot, cut off the optic nerve. I'm completely blind in my right eye. I was wore out mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I was wore out.
Too much.
And I thought, yeah, it is too much. I'm done. I'm done. I actually bought a plane ticket. That was a Sunday night. I was leaving New York, quitting the ministry Monday morning. I wasn't even going to tell anybody I was quitting. I was just gone. I set the alarm for 6 a.m., tried to sleep, couldn't sleep. I knew my whole life was getting ready to change. I remembered looking at the clock at 3 a.m. I guess I must have drifted off to sleep for a little while. The alarm went off at 6. I leaned over, turned off the alarm, turned on the light. And when I turned on the light, I saw it. My pillow was covered with blood.
Blood?
Blood. And I could see fine out of both eyes.
Wow.
Somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m.,
Happened.
God came. I was healed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you feel anything?
No. Nope. But somewhere in that 3-hour period of time, God came. And I'll tell all of you watching, and you need to understand what I'm about to say. I want to encourage you here. The reason why most people never see their miracle is because they don't stay long enough.
Wow. And after that miracle, you mentioned about the gunshot, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I was shot. 2 guys jumped me, tried to rob me, stuck a gun here, up, and they pulled the trigger. It misfired, and there was a guy behind me choking me with the gun in my mouth. The other guy was in front of me.
So what did you
me.
feel?
Well, it all happens very quickly. But remember now, I've lived on the street all my life. I've lived alone on the street since I was 12 years old. So I know they're serious and they're going to kill me because they pulled the trigger.
And you think about that, you maybe
very quickly.
Die.
I knew this is it.
Oh,
so I had my hands here on the guy's arm, and I went down like this to try to break free. I thought they're going to kill me anyway, so I have nothing to lose. I went down. When I went like this, the gun went like this.
Oh.
And he squeezed it again. That time it went off, and it blew out the whole side of my face. I remember the sound, the explosion in my mouth. I think it knocked me unconscious for a second. I remember falling down, and then I remembered I got up on my hands and knees, and I saw the two men running away, and I remember I went like this, and I saw the blood pumping out of the side of my face, and I thought, okay, I'm in trouble here. I need to, but if where I was in Brooklyn, and there's no way I could have got an ambulance there quick enough. And I crawled back to the church van, got in, and now I'm driving myself to the hospital. I'm watching the blood splatter against the glass of the van. And I remember pulling into the emergency room, and I was starting to pass out. And I pulled in, I put the van in park, and I remember the police opened the door, and that's all I remembered. I passed out.
Wow.
And I guess they took me, put me on the stretcher, took me in, and the next thing I knew, I woke up in the recovery room, stitched up, and it took 3 operations, 1 to repair my face, 2 to repair it again, and then the third one occurred. My face was all dented in. I had to have plastic surgery to fill in the hole.
You look very good now.
It's not, but you can see it a little bit, and I've showed you the scar
I know.
where you can see the bullet.
But the scar is so small.
They stitched it tight, pulled it tight, and but I made a promise that night, driving, watching myself die. I said, God, I will do more for you this last season of my life. 70 years old, people ask, why do you still drive the bus? Because when I drive the bus and I pick up those kids, you know who I'm picking up. I'm picking up me.
如今，大都会国际儿童事工已发展到世界各地，而 Bill Wilson 牧师也经常飞往各地，透过演讲信息以及自己写的书，让更多人知道，只要认养一个孩子的小举动，就能将无限希望带进孩子的未来。
经过了40-50年。这个 Pastor Bill 他现在的儿童主日学的事工不只是在纽约，而是在世界各地哦，甚至到目前为止，每个周末去他的主日学的孩子多达20几万。So Pastor Bill, now your ministry is all over the world.
Yes.
When and how did this start?
I think because of what happened in New York, it was such an unusual story.
Yes.
And the end results took people by surprise, because that had never happened before in American history.
Yeah.
It was just a unique story, and it captivated the attention not only of the Christian community, but of the secular community as well. And that's what's happening now all over the world, whether it's Latin America, Central America, Africa, Middle East.
But the situation in those countries is totally different than in the United States.
It's totally different, but needs are needs.
Yeah.
Situations are situations.
Yes.
They may look different. They may sound different. They may be more dire. They may be more violent.
You have the kid by yourself
Yes,
too.
yes.
I heard about the story in Kenya.
Oh, that was in one of the African countries called Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Just a little bit north of Kenya.
Okay.
Yes. I had got to the orphanage that we had helped start several years back. And they had just brought this little boy in. His leg was in a cast. And someone had abused him so badly. They took a hammer and broke his leg in 3 places with a hammer. And they had just put the cast on it. They'd fed him yesterday, the day before, when he got in. And I was talking with the director of the orphanage, and one of the ladies had just taken this little boy to the toilet. His name was Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah, took him to the toilet. And then we heard this lady scream. The director and I ran into the bathroom, and the little boy was laying on the floor, and blood was coming out of his body from somewhere we couldn't tell. He was crying. The lady was screaming, and I bent down, and I rolled him over. And I looked at this, and I saw his intestines coming out. And I looked at the director, and I said, this boy's going to bleed to death. We have to get him to the hospital. Well, the problem is, in so many of those African countries, they close the borders at 5 o'clock or whenever the sun goes down. I said, let's go. And I took a wet cloth, and I picked Lucas up, and I pushed his insides back into his body. I wrapped him up, put him in the Jeep. Here we go. We're driving to the border. Somehow, we're going to do something. I don't know what, but I'm not just going to stand there and watch the kid die. It was somebody who helped me. I know what it feels like when nobody cares. I wasn't going to be that person that didn't care for this little boy. We got to the border, and it was a river crossing, probably 50 feet across. And I saw the army, and they had a couple of Jeeps with guns on them. And I yelled, I said, does anybody speak English? And the sergeant said, I speak some English. I said, I have a boy here. He's dying. I have to come across. I have to get him to the hospital. He said, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I said, I can't. He's dying. I have to come now. He said, you come across, we will shoot you. And I looked down in the river. The water didn't look that deep. I thought, I think we can make it. So I started to drive down in. And now their guns are turned on me. And I know this is Africa, out in the middle of nowhere, Africa. Serious business. So I'm driving and trying to get through, and they fire a warning shot over my head. They turn back, stop. And I couldn't do it. I just kept going. And Lucas is crying, and the Jeep is bouncing. They fire another shot. I just closed my eyes. I thought, these are the times when your commitment really has to be stronger than your emotion. And it's exactly what it is. And I got to the other side. I drove up the bank. The minute I stopped, the sergeant reached over, grabbed me, threw me on the ground. He said, are you crazy? He said, we could have killed you. I said, stop, just stop. And I got up and I said, please, please. And I looked in the Jeep, and we'd been bouncing around where now there's blood all over the inside of the Jeep. It looked like somebody had been shot. I said, it's not trying to do anything for myself. I'm trying to save his life. And the sergeant looked at me. He said, you're an intense man. I said, yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I am. I said, I'm just trying to find the hospital, brother. I'm trying to save the kid's life. And he went like this. And his men moved the trucks. He said, this dirt road, go for 20 miles. He said, you'll find the hospital. He said, you go, preacher, go, save his life. And as I was handing Lucas to the doctor, because Lucas had not spoken to me, but as I gave him to the doctor, he looked at me and he was trying to say something. Well, I don't speak Swahili, so I looked at the doctor. I said, what's he saying? The doctor said, you don't need to know. I said, yeah, I need to know. What's he saying? What the little boy was saying was, thank you, mister. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome. And it was about 6 months later, and I was supposed to go back to Kenya to visit our team there. I hadn't heard how Lucas was doing. Nobody really told me. And I thought, I wonder if he's okay. And I borrowed a truck, and I drove from Kenya up north. I was trying to find that orphanage. And I pulled up in front of the orphanage, and I just sat there. There was nobody outside, and I beeped the horn. Nobody came out. I beeped the horn again, and then the front door of the orphanage opened, and this little boy looked out, and he looked.
Wow.
And he looked.
Wow.
And then his eyes got big, and he ran out, and he jumped up on me, and it was Lucas. And he was talking again. He was saying the same thing that he did when I dropped him at the hospital. I didn't understand it then.
He said thank you.
But I remembered this time. Thank you, mister. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That is so tough story.
Yeah, that's the reason for existence for Metro World Child. At 70 years old, people ask, why do you still drive the bus? Yeah, because when I drive the bus and I pick up those kids, you know who I'm picking up. I'm picking up me. That's me. That's me. One more time.
So you always put yourself in a very dangerous situation.
I go where the needs are, wherever the needs are. Wherever the greatest need is, that's where we go. So I go to Afghanistan. I go to Syria. 2 years ago, I got shot in the back in Syria. I was at a camp. We were there trying to help the Syrian children hurt in the war. And I got shot in the back. My bulletproof vest caught the bullet. Afghanistan, opportunities there. People don't want to go to Afghanistan. People don't want to go to Syria. I understand that.
But after so many years, maybe like 40 or 50 years, you've been, so many tragedy happened in front of you.
Of course.
And they are all kids. Have you ever questioned God that how could you allow this thing happen to a kid?
I understand why the world is in a mess. God didn't do it. It has nothing to do with that. It's the work of the enemy. He's the prince and power of this world. Jesus came to set men free, to bring life and liberty. So it's not a matter of me wondering. I understand what sin does. I understand the fall of humanity. I understand all that. But I also understand that Jesus is the only answer. There's not a lot of different answers. Jesus is the answer. And that's your job. That's my job. That's the role of this station, is to bring the gospel, to bring the good news. So good TV, good news.
Good news.
That's what it is.
Yes.
And that is where you see a change. And I've done this just long enough to see the change. Most people don't stay long enough to see the change.
And if the people here in Taiwan, we do really want to do something in your ministry, you bring this to them, right? That is a file.
That's a very important part. All of our staff and team members live right there where the kids live. But we have to have people that can say, I may not be able to change a country. I understand that. I'm not asking you to change a village. I know what you're thinking. But all I'm asking people to do is to take one child, just like this little girl.
That is cool.
Take one child and say, I can make a difference in that child. Just exactly like the man did for me. We've opened it up to the people in Taiwan and all across Asia to say, you can take one child. You can make a difference in their life. You can be that person that pulls them out, just like that man did for me. It's very simple.
And you have internship for young men.
We do. For instance, we're getting ready to start Metro Sunday School in Flushing, Queens, in New York, which is probably one of the most heaviest populated Chinese areas in the United States. I need 3 Mandarin-speaking interns to help me start the Sunday school with the kids there. They'll stay with us in New York City, learn it, take it. We'll challenge them, and then they can come back and take those principles to wherever they come from.
At the end of this interview, do you have anything else you want to share with our audience?
I think for those of you that have been watching today, you have to understand, folks, that it is possible for one person to make a difference. In Numbers chapter 16, verse 48, it says, Aaron stood between the living and the dead. How did that happen? Read it for yourself. The Bible says he ran to the altar. People were dying. He saw them. And Moses told him, run to the altar, get some fire, and go. And the Bible says he ran to the altar, scooped up some fire from the altar of God, and then he ran out into the middle of where the people were dying. And the Bible says in that 48th verse that where he stood, the death stopped. Today, Lulu and I have talked about one person that got some fire, saw the need, saw the people dying, got the fire, and then went out into the middle of it. Everybody watching today can be that one person. You can be that Dave, the man who picked me up. You can be that Aaron who went out, and where he stood, the death stopped. But what does it take? Ran to an altar. I challenge you, run to the altar. Get that fire from the Holy Spirit. And then, it's amazing, the Lord will open doors. He'll let you see things through a different set of eyes. And you can be the one that makes the difference to a kid just like me. That's how it happens. That's how a generation is changed. That's how a village is changed. That's how a nation is changed. In Jesus' name.
That's how the world changed.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
今天 Bill Wilson 牧师带来的很多的故事，他的分享，他所经历、所看到的，其实我在过去看了他的书，今天听到他的见证、他的分享，我觉得那真的就是电影，而且是好几部这种大家没有办法想象的好莱坞电影的情节，但它是真实发生的。那今天牧师真的给我们一个很大的提醒，就是我们要不要只是坐在那边，还是我们真的去做？如果我们一旦去做了，我们就会发现，其实我们做的任何一件小小的事情，真的是万事互相效应，完全没有办法想象之后神会成就一个什么样的大事。Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Lulu. Thank you.
神迹对许多人来说是生命当中一次特别的经历，但是神迹对基督徒而言，则是上帝在我们一生当中工作的痕迹。在今天，我们听见 Bill Wilson 这位美国来的牧者给我们非常激励的信息。坦白说，他的人生符合了所有可以加入黑帮，然后可以一路畅行无阻，就是使坏到底的元素。但是为什么他的人生却没有走向这一条路呢？12岁被家人遗弃的他，在一个非常困难的环境中，竟然上帝把恩典临到他。坦白说，对于现代人来说，埋怨几乎是所有人刷存在感最有共鸣的语言。看到彼此，就开始要埋怨这个埋怨那个。在今天访谈最后结束的时候 ，Bill Wilson 提到了一件事情，他说，其实很多人很喜欢讲自己不能改变的那些事情，而那些事情，因为它不能改变。我们就不断的责怪，因为这些不能改变，使我的人生变成这个样子，变成那个样子。就像是很多时候，我们也常常这样埋怨我们的国家，埋怨政府，埋怨总统，埋怨环境，埋怨时不我与。最能够埋怨的他，却在上帝恩典的手中看见，上帝是那个能够让剧本当中看起来是没有机会的故事，写成福音的故事。我不知道你怎么样去看生命当中那一些你很希望改变，然后我们又常常觉得都是因为这件事情造成我们人生的困难。那些事情可能是不能改变的，就像是 Wilson 一样，他的人生遇到了很多他不能改变的事，但 可以的，就是在耶稣基督的手里。他常常提到的一件事，其实是因为一个普通的人，那天经过他身边的 Dave 伸手帮助了他，而这个 Dave 其实自己的人生也正面对自己的孩子即将失去生命的一个困境。到底谁能够帮助人？在今天的故事里面，其实我相信Wilson不想要让我们看到他很厉害，他不过就是希望他的故事能够激励我们的心，知道我们都可以伸出我们的手帮助那些有需要的人。就是那个小小的帮助，小小的伸出手的举动，我们可以让别人的生命经历到耶稣基督的恩典。我们都是平凡人，一如 Wilson 一样，他的生命也经过非常多看起来你以为是很不平凡的事，但对他来说是一个又一个平凡的需要，激动他的心，好让他参与耶稣基督透过他参与许多人生命的改变。期待今天的信息，Wilson 的故事能够成为你的祝福，成为上帝敲我们的心门，对我们说话的开始。我们一起祷告。天父，我们的生命里面有许多我们希望它改变，但却没有办法改变的事。我们常常以为是这些倒霉的事，让我的人生变成今天的样子。但主，你却邀请我们将这些事交在你的手中。耶稣已经来，为了是要改变这些不能改变的事。愿你使我们的心被你打开，我们也愿意看见有需要的人，参与你在他们生命当中改变的故事。我们将今天所领受的献上感恩，愿你激动我们的心，在今天经历你改变的故事。祷告奉耶稣基督的名求，阿们。亲爱的朋友，深愿你今天顺着圣灵的感动，常常帮助有需要的人。